Now, losing weight with PCOS, it's an extremely complex process of making sure we're covering your nutrition, your exercise, and all these things. And so my goal is to try to simplify it as much as I can, because every single day I get questions from people saying, well, how do I lose weight with PCOS? It's something I can't answer in just one video or one email or one message because of all the different pieces that need to come together. And so I want to try to simplify it so you're focusing on the most important things that are going to get you the results you want. Now, one important thing that has to be a part of your plan is exercise. If you go out and you start following a program, and you see something on there saying, hey, take this supplement or eat this food or follow this diet, and you don't need to exercise, what I hear in my head is follow this plan. We're going to starve you. We're going to cut out something. You'll lose a lot of muscle. Your metabolism is going to get damaged. You'll lose a lot of weight, but you're going to gain it all back. And the reason why is because exercise is so important for making sure that you're losing the right type of weight, that you're losing the fat you want to lose. But along with that, exercise is there to make sure that we're increasing your metabolism, that we're maintaining your muscle, that we're breaking down fat. Because the reality is this, your body, it breaks down fat all the time, but it won't increase the amount you're breaking down just by cutting out carbs or just by cutting out calories or gluten or whatever, right? You have to exercise. The action of exercise literally sends a signal to your fat cell saying, open up so we can use what's in there. We can break down the fat and we can use it. So we need to make sure that we're doing that. Now, when people hear that, there's a lot of different things, especially with PCOS. I'll have a lot of people who will say, well, I don't have the energy to exercise. I don't have the time to exercise. I'm injured. I don't like exercising. There's these different reasons why it's difficult for us to exercise. And those are all valid reasons. So I don't want you to feel like you have to jump in and start doing an hour-long cardio session or go and start lifting really heavy weights all of a sudden or following some program that you absolutely hate. What I want you to do is start adding some exercise in until we get to the point where you can at least tolerate the exercise. You can handle it because your energy is getting better. See, exercise does improve your energy if you're doing it right. It can help reduce injuries if you're doing it right. How do we do that? If you don't have the time, the energy to be able to start exercising now, how can you start? We use a very basic principle that's taught in every exercise physiology class across the world. And that idea is something called progressive overload. Now, what is this progressive overload? Progressive overload basically means that you're progressively challenging your body. You're adding just a little bit at a time to be able to make your body develop, get stronger, increase its ability to use energy and create energy and everything that we need it to do so that it gets better and better and better at burning fat. Let me give you a quick little example of this. So there's a lady I'm working with, her name's Melissa, and she really struggled to see results. Before coming to work with me, she could not see any results at all. She was born with stomach issue. She would try these different diets, and then she'd have these diets that would say eat tons of protein and it'd make her sick, and she'd throw up all the time. She would follow these other diets where it would cut out certain foods and she'd again feel sick, or she just wouldn't have the energy she needs to even function. And so while she was working with me, we're trying different things in nutrition with exercise, but we were struggling to see some progress until we said, you know what, forget all this other stuff, forget nutrition for now. You're working on some things, you're doing okay, but let's really focus on the exercise side of things and start progressively challenging you. And so we started focusing on this progressive overload. So we started out having just a little bit of exercise. Her energy was extremely low. She could hardly get out of bed. And so we had her just doing maybe 5 minutes of exercise a day. Then we did that for a little bit and she was doing okay. Then we said, let's do it for 10 minutes. And then we added a minute at a time and eventually got to a point where she was able to do about 30, 45 minutes of exercise. She had the energy to do that, but she wasn't doing a lot. Then what we did is we slowly started making the workouts a little bit harder. So we added a little bit more here and there until eventually those workouts got quite a bit more challenging. Now, every time I get on a call with her, we don't talk about, what size are you now? How much weight have you lost? All those things. We talk about how good are your workouts now? Are they challenging you enough? Do we need to make them more challenging? How are you feeling with the workouts? And she's like, I'm feeling great. My energy's good. I'm feeling wonderful. And I'm seeing the progress I want. So we need to progressively overload your body, progressively challenge your body so that you can handle what you're doing. Mistakes I see people make is that they make the workouts too challenging all at once and then they can't handle it. I haven't exercised for a while, so I'm going to go do an hour-long workout. Maybe your body's not ready for that. Or I haven't lifted weights ever. I'm going to go and do a 45-minute workout session. You won't be walking very well for the next week or so. But if we progressively do things, we can get you to the point where your body can handle it and we can challenge you enough that you'll start to see the results you want. How do we do this? Well, progressive overload, what I like to do is break it down into 4 different principles. We call it the FITT Principles, F-I-T-T. Now, as I explain the FITT Principle, I want you to understand something really quick. You do not need to implement all of these at the same time. You can add them one at a time. That's typically how I would have someone do it anyways, as we move through. And then eventually you get to a point where you do need to work on one specific area. So what does F stand for? F stands for frequency. Frequency is how often you do the exercises, a certain workout. How many times per week do you do it? How many times per day in some instances, okay? How often do we do that workout? I have some people who work out 3 days a week. week. I have some people who work out 5 days a week, some 6. We have some people doing 2 workouts a day. Now, don't get me wrong. I'm not saying that they're going to go lift weights in the morning and lift weights in the evening, or go for a long run and then go to the gym. Sometimes their morning workout is a walk. And then they might go to the gym. Then in the evening, maybe they'll do a little walk also. Just something to hang out with their family and get moving. That's all really they're doing. So it just depends on everyone's situation. Not everyone wants to increase their frequency. But if right now, if you're only working out once a week, maybe try twice a week. Well, if you're only working out 3 times a week, maybe try 4 times a week. That's what we do with frequency, is we increase how often we're exercising. Again, the first one, frequency. Second one is the intensity. So how hard are you exercising? So with your workout, are you walking or are you running? Running is more intense than walking, right? If you're lifting weights, are you lifting heavy enough? So to increase the intensity with lifting, you lift heavier. To increase the intensity with intervals, you move faster, or you rest, you take your rest time and you shorten it down. To increase the intensity of a walk, you want to walk faster, walk up a hill, maybe put on a weight vest. The reason why we need to increase the intensity of your workout is because eventually you get used to it. Now, you may have heard of this idea of muscle confusion. We've got to confuse your muscles and all those things like that, right? That is the #1 greatest marketing term ever created in the fitness industry. It has made certain people billionaires off of that one term that does not exist. We do not confuse our muscles. What we do instead is we challenge our muscles. Okay, we have to challenge our body and so for it to develop and to grow and to adapt the way we want it to. Because think of it this way. If you break your bone gets stronger where you broke it. If you get a cut and it scars, that scar is stronger than the skin around it. The same type of thing happens with our body everywhere when we challenge our body one way or another. So you go for a walk when you've never walked before. Maybe you haven't walked a whole lot. You go for a mile-long walk and you get done, you go, that was hard. If that's the case, your body goes, wow, that was hard. If we're going to keep doing this, we need to be ready for it next time. So it starts to adapt. It starts to get ready for that workout. And then you go and do it again, and eventually it gets easy to do that because your body is ready. Your body's adapting. It's making those changes it needs to. Now, along with that, if you're seeing progress, if you're losing weight, now just imagine this. Let's say you weigh 250 pounds. You go for a walk, and over time, you lose 50 pounds. Well, now you're carrying less weight as you go for a walk. How would it feel if you put on a 50-pound weight vest and went for that walk? Wouldn't that walk be a lot more challenging? Yeah, it would, right? Because you're not carrying as much. And so you're not working as hard when you do that walk. And so when I have someone come to me and say, this is frustrating. I've been walking for years and I'm just not seeing progress. In the beginning I did, but now I'm not. The reason why is because you're not challenging your body enough for it to adapt and become stronger and become better at helping you use the energy you need to, which means burn fat. So we need to increase the intensity of what you're doing. So if you're walking, we need to walk faster. We need to walk uphill. We need to put a weight vest on you. We need to go from walking to jogging or to running or riding a bike or something. If you're lifting weights, you need to continually try to lift heavier and heavier and heavier. That will increase the intensity of what you're doing. Now, a lot of times when I share this, people will get into the idea of, wait, well, won't that mess up my cortisol? Okay, I'm going to say this really shortly, but I will touch on this in a different time. The whole idea of increasing and decreasing your cortisol with exercise is completely misunderstood. It has nothing to do with one single type of exercise that you do, and has everything to do with your entire day, your entire week, and your whole training program. Going out for a run is not going to mess up your cortisol unless you're running too much, too often, and you're pushing yourself too hard with that running workout. Lifting weights is not going to raise your cortisol too much unless you're not allowing yourself to rest between workouts, you're putting workouts too close together, you're doing too much of a volume and things like that. Intervals or HIIT training is not going to raise your cortisol too much unless you're doing it too often throughout the week, you're not allowing your body to rest, you're not eating enough, you're not getting enough water, you're not sleeping enough. Everything else plays into that more than your workout and the type of exercise you're doing. I will get into that in a different video or a different lesson, but I want to make sure that you understand that cortisol, yes, we want to be cognizant of it. We want to be careful that we're not doing something that's going to cause too much stress on our body. Lifting weights is not the problem. Intervals is not the problem. Running, doing cardio is not the problem. It's everything else around there. It's the sleep, the nutrition, the exercise and stuff, and everything else that affects it that causes the problem. Do whatever exercise you want. Just make sure you're increasing the intensity. Okay, so let's go back to that FITT principle. F, frequency. I, intensity. T stands for time or duration, how long that workout is. So with a good workout program, you may only start at 5 minutes. So a lot of times with my clients, when I start working with them, we will start out, how much time can you do? If you don't have a lot of energy, how much time do you have energy for? Could you do 5 minutes? Then we can go maybe 6 minutes, then 7, then 8, then 10, and so on. If you are only working out for 30 minutes, could you go 40 minutes? Can we increase that time? Now, I want to be careful with time because the goal is not to get you to the point where you're working out for 2 hours and 3 hours a day. 45 minutes for a workout per day is not a bad idea. 30 minutes is pretty good. We don't have to increase the time. Usually, I will revert to intensity when I'm working with someone. So instead of making them work out longer, I'll look at the intensity and make sure that we're challenging their body enough. So the fourth one. So we're at F, frequency, I is intensity. The first T is time or duration, and the second T is type of exercise. Sometimes we need to adjust the type of exercise. And I've kind of alluded to that a little bit as I was talking about intensity. What I mean by that is this: walking is great. It can help a lot of people see some good results in the beginning, but sometimes we need to adjust to a new type of exercise. Instead of walking, that could be running. That's a different type. Sometimes it's good to ride a bike versus, again, running or something like that. The reason why is because our body gets adapted to specific movements as well as different, intensities and different times and durations of the exercise. Let me give you an example of this. So there was an MMA fighter I was working with several years ago. She had come to me. She was trying to get conditioned for a fight she had coming up, and she was going out and running like crazy. And eventually she developed shin splints. And she came to me and she's like, "Oh, my shins, they're killing me. What do I do?" Well, my recommendation was don't run. That's it. Just don't run. And she was like, "I can't. I've got to run to be ready for this fight. I can't do it." I'm like, "Look, if you keep running, you're going to hurt yourself, right? And that's going to cause some problems. You're not going to be able to do the fight." She's like, "What can I do? I still need to run. Is there anything I can do?" Okay, because of shin splints, here's some things we can do, but my big recommendation is stop running, okay? What we did instead is we had her run at an incline because that puts a little bit less stress on the shins. And so she's running on there. Her shins are feeling a lot better. And she was doing that for several weeks, running at that higher incline. She always said at the same incline, same speed, and she'd go at it. Well, about a week or two before her fight, I had her do a metabolic test. We put a little mask on her and we monitor her breathing and everything. And with that information, we can tell how hard her body's working. Now, here she was going. I was slowly increasing the speed and I was slowly increasing the incline that she was running on that treadmill. And as time went on, we watched how hard her body was working and we saw it go up and up and up and up. And then we hit the spot that she had been training for a long time. So the speed and the incline. We hit that spot and her body, all of a sudden, the numbers drop because she's not working as hard. She's used to that. You could physically see it in her. She was working. You could see it on her face. She just had this face like, "Oh, I'm going at it." She's breathing heavier. And then when she got into that, her face relaxed, her body relaxed. She got into that position and she went for it because her body was used to that intensity, that incline, that speed, that incline, all that. Then as we started to increase the incline a little bit more, her body shot right back up to a higher intensity and then it kept going up in a kind of a steady climb. We need to adjust the type of exercise we're doing. With her, it would have been great to throw her on a bike. It would have been good to have her do something else. It would have been great for her to, mix up the type of exercise she was doing. When we were working together, we weren't necessarily doing this full, like I designed a whole program for her and went for it. It was more just giving her some advice. You'd come and she asked some questions. I'd give her some advice. She could take it or leave it. She took some of the information, did well with it. She left some of the information, ended up getting a stress fracture a couple days before the fight and she couldn't fight. But it's an interesting way to see that if we keep doing the same type of exercise over and over and over again, our body gets used to it. It doesn't mean we need to confuse it. It just means we need to challenge it in a new way. And once we do that, it can start to improve and progress. So if you have zero energy, if you don't have any time, if you are not feeling well, you don't feel motivated to go exercise, start using the progressive overload principle by progressively adding more intensity, more frequency, more time, more duration to the workout. Slowly add more. If you're only working out 5 minutes a day, I would start with time. Start working until you're working out a little bit longer. At that point, we can go to frequency if we need to. If you're only doing it 2 or 3 times a week, go to frequency and increase how often you're doing it. Then we can go to intensity. Then we start making it more and more challenging as we're going on. Then eventually you can jump to type. And then we can bounce around between all of those. Sometimes we adapt both of 2 different things at once. Sometimes we'll adapt all of them at once. It just depends on what we're doing with somebody. But for you personally, start looking at one of them. Can you increase how often you exercise? If not, can you increase how long you're exercising? If not, can you increase how hard your workouts are? And if not, can you change the type of exercise you're doing? Let me know your questions. Let me know the struggles you're running through and how I can help you out best. My name is John Gibson. I enjoy talking to you. I'll talk to you later.